All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here again with Matt Dobrovolsky, or Darth Vader 92. And he's here to talk all things Lucasfilm that I can come up with, from reactions of the announcements made at D23 to the involvement of Lucasfilm in the parks, including most recently we talked about the Galaxy's Edge, and we talked about the Star Cruiser, and so we'll talk about what's going on in the parks and what's going on with Disney Plus. But I want to welcome Matt back to the show, and just for people that may not have seen or listened to your visits before, can you just give us a brief rundown of what you are doing and what your involvement is with Lucasfilm, Star Wars, and Disney?
Nah, they just need to go back and watch the previous episodes. No, I'm kidding. So I began my Disney career back in 2010 when I was 18 years old, working at the Disney store back home in New Jersey. Did that for a couple months and then came down to Florida for the college program. Sasagula Float Works, quick service over at Port Orleans French Quarter. I learned how to make beignets. Went back to that Disney store to finish community college, but then came down here to study at UCF to get a bachelor's in hospitality management and begin my full-time career with Disney. I was on the opening team of FastPass Plus, went over to Epcot, did Test Track, Mission Space, Spaceship Earth. Then I got the wonderful opportunity to head over to be the opening team for Star Wars Launch Bay over at Hollywood Studios. Did that for a couple of months. Once that kind of ran out, got a chance to go over and do the other Star Wars attraction at the time, Star Tours. Did that for about 2 years, and then got the amazing opportunity to go and work in a beautiful Star Wars themed land called Galaxy's Edge, where I still work there today. I'll be going back to work tomorrow after being off for the last 2.5 weeks. And I work at Rise of the Resistance, the most immersive themed attraction that I think any theme park has ever created in its lifetime. I'm a trainer over there as well, so any of the new people that come in, I get to train them, and I get to see them grow as the little ducklings they are when I send them off into the Resistance or the First Order. So
Yeah, thanks for that. I've been meaning to ask you because I know the previous times we've talked about, like, you might switch back and forth. So how difficult is it, or like, what do you have to do to be able to prepare yourself for, you might go in one day and your Resistance, you might go on one day and your First Order, like, as a cast member, and also, I mean, let's be honest, just as it's an acting role, it's like a cosplaying role while you're there, especially in that land. Like, how do you have to get yourself ready to do that?
you literally have to take like a few moments before you actually clock in and just kind of like decompose and get into this mindset and everything, especially First Order. Look, Resistance, you're the good guys. You know, you can really have that true Disney level service being in that role. You know, First Order, yes, we're a Star Wars destination with Disney level service. However, you do have to have this different mindset. You have to kind of, switch off the niceties. I'm not going to say please and thank you to you or anything like that. I'm going to give you orders because I'm the First Order. So it's really triggering that switch in you to go out there and do this, cosplaying, as you just said.
Yeah. And I mean, for career development, like, that's got to be really important too, or really, like, it's got to be fun. And I would see it as maybe helpful for any future, if there's something you want to change or something you want to do in the future, being able to kind of from day to day, sometimes, like, make that kind of change. Is it challenging at all? Or is it just like you're kind of used to it now? So you're in the groove of everything.
I think after having now worked there, it's going on almost 3 years now. it is getting used to, but I think the aspect of training it to these new people that are coming in, especially First Order, it's this idea of, I want you to go out here and, if I say please, if you say please, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
We're gonna start, saying like, hey, let's take it back. You don't actually want to say please. Obviously, when I train, I have to focus on the safety aspects, but you also do want to focus on a show aspect a little bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember if I mentioned to you the last time we talked, when we went on Rise of the Resistance. My 8-year-old, who had just turned 6 at that time, I think, um, was he was questioned by the First Order, because we all had
Oh yeah,
on
I remember.
shirts. Yeah,
Yeah,
we all had on shirts, and so he was questioned like, "What are you doing here?" And so the rest of the day, like, he was like, "Why did they ask me? Why?" And I couldn't quite tell. I think some of it was like, a little apprehension as to why they asked him. But then I think some of it was also he wanted us to remember that he had been asked,
yeah.
and maybe like he hadn't, his younger sibling hadn't been asked. So he ate it up. They both loved it. And it's, I mean, it's the that ride, the Rise of the Resistance, is just like you said, it's amazing. It's technologically very well advanced.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
love the people that'll always come up to us and say, "Why does it break down all the time?" I'm like, "Have you done it yet?" No. What? Go ride it and then come ask me the
yeah,
same question.
you know what was so interesting to me, and maybe I've mentioned this before, when we wrote it in 2009, 2021, we uh we had like a lightning lane. It broke down before, like an hour before we were going to get on. So basically, like, it said, come back any time of the day, right?
Right.
And so when we got on it, because I've watched all the YouTube videos, um that last encounter with Kylo Ren, where he's like threatening you, and then like the ship, like the wall of the ship gets blown off, and like this little uh thing drops down in front of him, he wasn't working. So that door was just down. And so for someone like me, like everyone else, they don't even notice, but for someone
Right.
like me, I was like, man, that's so cool that they can, instead of just having the whole ride shut down, it's just literally this one area. And I know I'm simplifying it, but it's this one area, this one set that they can almost just close off. And it works because, there's that, it's like part of the ship that kind of comes down and covers him up. So you don't even notice he's back there
Right.
most of the time, unless you're looking for him.
Or unless you've done it before and you've
Yeah.
gotten the other version.
Yeah. And so I thought that was really neat that they were able to do that, because I also, I can't remember if you had told me or what, but I had heard somewhere just how long it takes for that ride to actually kind of, if it has to shut down, then once it like gets sort of turned back on or whatever, how long it takes everything to get up and running.
Yeah.
So I fully appreciated, like,
Yeah. It doesn't take long, which is
really,
very surprising coming from other attractions.
okay. Um, so you just got off of the Disney Wish literally this morning.
Literally this morning, like
So
you can see one of my bags back there.
so for thank you for driving fast to hopefully safely
It's an hour drive.
to get
It's
home.
nothing. 70 miles an hour, 70, 75 maybe.
They how was it? This was your first time on the Wish. What
It's a
was it?
gorgeous, gorgeous ship. Um, but there are some issues that me as an avid Disney cruise person I have with it.
Yeah.
Passageways are kind of narrow. Um, they don't, if any of you watching, if you've ever been on a Disney cruise, the other ships have like a centralized adult area where there are different lounges and everything. They don't have that. All the lounges are scattered throughout the ship.
Hmm.
I personally thought the entertainment was a lot of crap, in all honesty. Um, the first show that they have was fantastic, in my opinion. Not the best, but fantastic. Aladdin, I've seen it before. It's okay. The Little Mermaid show that they had was horrible.
Hmm.
absolutely the worst Disney cruise line production I've ever seen. And I
You
will.
think you think that we talked a little bit before? Do you think there are things that are being worked out, can be worked out, like
Oh,
things like
absolutely.
that? Yeah.
I think in a couple of years' time, we'll see it go into dry dock, and it'll get a good renovation. They'll figure something out of what they can do with this and this. You know, one of my biggest problems that I had was that on uh, the deck that you entered, deck 3, you make an immediate right there, and then that's where the Star Wars Hyperspace Lounge is. They have another bar. They have the Bayou, which again is another bar, and then it leads you to the theater. On the other side over there, deck 3 starboard, they have these two massive, and I'm talking massive, designer shops that are selling nothing but jewelry, watches, and bags. Okay. It literally is taking up about, I would say, a fourth of the entire deck.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's that big. Every time I walked past these, I never saw a single soul in there. And it's just, why did we build something that nobody is going to, so massive? And then you have the Hyperspace Lounge that everyone's trying to get to, at least for the first couple of nights, and during like the peak times. And that can only seat like 30 people.
Yeah.
It's very, very odd how they did this. And
Yeah.
you know, I was talking to my best friend about it because he just went on the Maiden. And I think he said it right. This ship was built during COVID. He talked to a lot of the designers and everything on the maiden voyage, and they didn't even go out to the ship. A lot of this was done through Zoom.
Okay.
So they were being like, okay, well, show me this. Here, I've got this right here. But in my opinion, when it comes to these design flaws, like the passageways and everything, whoever designed the elevators on this ship needs to be smacked. Literally, these buttons are supposed to be a no touch button, so you could just hover your finger over it. So in this way, it triggers that button.
Yeah.
First off, if the elevator gets jam packed, guess what? You're going to every single floor.
Yeah.
Why? Because someone just leaned their back up against all the buttons. They only have 2 elevator banks now, forward and aft of the ship. Okay. Now, granted, 8 elevators forward, 8 elevators back. So that wasn't so much of a problem, but we went up to Apollo, the adults restaurant. That was 12 aft. Okay. 4 of the elevators in the bank only go up to deck 11.
Okay.
The other 2 go up, the other 4 go up to deck 12 and deck 13. If you want to try and get up to deck 12, you got a 50-50 shot of that elevator being able to take you up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, who designed this?
Yeah.
So what we were forced to do half the time was take the elevator up to 11, get off, press the up button again to trigger one of the other elevators on the other side.
Yeah.
It was just, it's poor design choices, in my opinion.
So let's talk about the Star Wars Lounge. And I had seen a lot about that and about the Marvel Lounge. What are your impressions of them? Are they hot ticket, like
absolutely.
when you're
the
there?
First night I stayed clear of it.
Okay.
Because everyone was trying to get in there. Yeah. The drinks are fantastic. Very flavorful, because I heard from a lot of people saying, you know, the drinks at Oga's in Galaxy's Edge was better. Okay. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, let me set my expectations down a little bit. No, I went in there, had 2 cocktails over the course of my week time on the cruise. It's very good.
Yeah.
We got really stumped because we were in there Wednesday night, and my friend asked for just a cup of ice water. Okay. brings out this drink that is red.
Yeah. I was
And
going to
we're
ask
just like,
about that because I saw the
yeah,
pictures.
we're just like, what did he mess up? Like, did he
Yeah.
somehow give us a cocktail? Like, what's going on here? And then sure enough, she took one drink and she was like, that's water. And then we're like, okay, sir, can I get a water too? He comes out now with a blue water. So then my wife says, I'll take a water too. She gets an orange one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is really cool. Like, it was one of those moments that it's just like, it made you appreciate.
Yeah.
It made you appreciate the moment. It gave you a nice core memory there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty cool. The like the theming, everything of it, the show, everything is what's your impression of that?
Oh, amazing. Just,
Okay.
you're sitting in there. It's all themed around, I mean, you saw Solo.
Mhm.
Remember Dryden Voss's
Yeah.
ship?
Yeah.
It's all kind of themed to that kind of design.
Okay.
And you look out the window and everything, and you're jumping to a different planet scenery every like
cool.
5 minutes or so.
That's cool.
So that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. We jumped to Batu, and I was like, oh, we're at Galaxy's Edge. That's so cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense since Dryden Voss is, I mean, that was I forget what he called it, but it was a cruise ship that was in that movie. Yeah, that makes sense. So another trip right before that, you were at D23.
Yes, I've been a busy man this entire month.
It's been a lot of travel. But it's good travel. It's fun travel.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was exhausted when I came back from Anaheim. After the cruise, I'm relaxed.
Yeah.
I always say take a cruise because you want to actually have a vacation that's relaxed. That's a cruise.
Yeah. Go to the parks. It's not really a vacation.
You come back and you want the vacation from the vacation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So without getting like too much into the like individual aspects of the expo, what was your overall experience? And because this is not your first expo to be at, so what was your overall experience, and how does it compare to the ones you've been to in the past?
2019, I think, was 2017 and 2019 were my favorite expos, just because of how well it was run, and the offerings that they had. And this time it was almost the same way. They had some very good offerings and everything, but operationally they were failing a lot, in my opinion. The big hall where we went to the big presentations, like the Marvel and Lucasfilm, the Parks and Resorts one, they were messing up so badly. Normally with that hall, it sits about like 7,000 people.
Yeah.
You would have to probably get started about an hour before with trying to load everyone in, right? They were getting started a half an hour before.
Okay.
They, and this wasn't just at Hall D. They did it up in the big room where we did the Muppets panel too, that they had. Again, that one held like probably about 2,000 people. But again, they started like 15 minutes before showtime.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hey guys, can you get this thing moving a little bit, or else we're going to miss most of the presentation. The Friday afternoon studios presentation that we thankfully got into, we missed, I think, the first like 15 minutes of it.
Okay.
Because the first thing that they started talking about was Hocus Pocus, and we sat down right at that moment. Apparently we missed Cynthia Erivo singing When You Wish Upon a Star, because Pinocchio had just come out the day before. So that kind of just put a poor taste in my mouth. I'm like, guys, you're the reason why I'm not up there right now, because you took forever to load this up.
Yeah.
So,
well, so what about the announcements at the Lucasfilm Marvel panel? What were some that stood out to you?
I think the biggest one that stood out was Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I have been looking forward to this movie coming out for a while, ever since they basically said, yeah, we've got Lucasfilm, and we're like, do they have Indiana Jones as well?
Yeah.
I sure hope you do. And then it was a couple of years ago, they finally said, yep, we're doing Indy 5. And I'm like, oh boy. And especially when they got Harrison Ford back for it, that just gave me a lot of hope that this was going to be something else. And especially, they even said during the presentation, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, they're actually working with the project. They're like consultants.
Okay.
I'm very shocked, especially with George, that he kind of signed on to be with it.
Yeah.
So that even gives me hope that they're actually going to the original people to say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Does this work?
Yeah.
Harrison Ford was there. That's got to be like my 4th time now seeing this man, which I'm very thankful for in my lifetime. But he was getting emotional on that stage because he loves this character. And he literally said, we've got some serious shit right here. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for June 30th now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, at least the story goes, Indiana Jones is really what kind of helped Harrison Ford stay in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, absolutely.
It was wanting to film more Indiana Jones movies. And so decided being able to film more Indiana Jones movies than agreeing to come back for Return of the Jedi and
right.
things like that. And also, I've read for a while that, Indiana Jones, the original intent of Indiana Jones was to be sort of like America's version of 007, where you would have different people playing Indiana Jones. But Harrison Ford so much loved the character that he wanted Indiana Jones to be his.
Yeah. And I think it was also like the public appreciated and accepted him as Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that love him as Han Solo, but there are also a lot of people that love him for Indiana Jones.
Yeah. And that's like, two of my favorite characters are Han Solo and Indiana Jones. And so a lot of, the kind of the action movies of my youth were watching Harrison Ford on screen, doing what Harrison Ford does, Right. And so they also announced Willow. And I am really excited for the Willow series to come out. I think it's like a great way for people to either be introduced to the character and the mythos, or be reintroduced to it.
That's me. I never saw the first movie.
So here, I watched it a few months ago again, and Willow was the first movie I can remember, like, kind of being exposed to the storytelling element that, like, a hero at the end starts out as a bad guy, starts out as like this kind of like, he's mean, he's inconsiderate, he's not nice, and then, like, by the end,
spoiler alert,
I know, I'm sorry, by the end, like, and so that was my first exposure to, like, that kind of story. Well, I didn't tell you who it was, so although watching the first 5 minutes you could probably guess.
Yeah,
but but like, so I'm really excited for that to come out. And what was the reception for that like?
I think there was some good reception. However, we were talking about this before we started. Anything that Lucasfilm is doing right now, I feel like they're putting their toe into the water just to see, like, what do you guys think? Do you really like this? Do you really want to see this? And I wonder if that's what they're doing with Willow.
Yeah.
Because this is Disney and Lucasfilm's first attempt at something other than Star Wars, and, for that aspect too, other than Indiana Jones. Um, we also did not hear anything about. I'm remembering now the children of the. Oh, I can't remember the title of it. Children of the blood or whatever.
I
It
don't.
was
Yeah,
some. It
I
was
don't remember
something
that one.
original that they were working on.
Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, not really original because I think it was a book. Um, and it they didn't talk anything about it at
Okay.
D23. So it literally proved to me like, hey, we want to do this. No, we didn't hear that much pull on that, so we're actually going to pull back.
Yeah.
Um, but I wonder if that's what they're trying to do with Willow, is that they're dipping their toe into the water to see what the reception is. I mean, did you see the trailer for Willow?
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
It has those action-packed sequences. It has that blockbuster uh movie aspect to it. The story looks great. I mean, Warwick Davis, you can't go wrong with Warwick.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think if they see the reception go nuts for it, then they're going to go right in and approve more seasons
Yeah.
for it. Because like you said, you said it is a series.
Actually, one thing I would love to see with all Lucasfilm, Star Wars, they already do it. I want to see this with Indiana Jones, and I've never come across something except for like a 5 or 7 minute video. And Willow, I would like to see more of the Lego movies, like or the Lego specials. Those are like, I think those are so important in that they they can engage younger kids who can then grow up with that fandom in a way that I don't know if any of these other projects can. Like all of the Star Wars Lego specials that they put out, like the holiday special and then summer vacation that they just put out like last month. Excuse me. They're so funny. They're so entertaining. I would love to see more of that with all of Disney's properties, because I think those those Lego specials do such an amazing job.
I
Like
always say
with
a good
everything.
mark to any family film is that something that can be funny for the kids, and the kids will appreciate it, and then the adults will find it humorous and appreciate it as
Yeah.
well. Perfect example is the Lego movies. Not the actual Lego movie, but the ones that are on Disney
Yeah.
Plus. The kids love it because of the bright colors and everything like that, the quirkiness to it. But then they actually have adult stuff in there that we only laugh at.
Yeah.
It's like in the 90s when I watched Animaniacs.
Mhm.
Okay. I loved it because of the zany humor to it. And then now I rewatch it because I get all the adult innuendos that they
Yeah.
make in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, is that you appeal it to the kids, but you also appeal it to the adults as well. And the Lego stuff so far, they've been doing a very good job with it.
Yeah. I mean,
I wonder if when Indy gets to be the successful thing that it probably will be, because like I said, I saw that trailer that came out. We were the only ones that got to see the trailer for Indiana Jones. It's going to be fantastic.
nice. Very, very nice.
So when that gets to be the powerhouse that it is, I think you're going to see more Indiana Jones stuff come out.
That'll be awesome. That's my hope, because one thing I have written down is like Lucasfilm in the parks, and one dream I have is, and I don't want anything to happen around Echo Lake. So like I there's not really, it's not like I want a land or an area replaced in Hollywood Studios, but I would like to see more of an Indiana Jones theming around the theater, and an attraction or something in there, whether it's walkthrough or anything.
What if they got rid of the stunt show?
No, I don't want to get rid of the stunt. I love that stunt show. I absolutely love that stunt. That is one of my favorite things at Hollywood Studios. Even going with like Galaxy's Edge, Rise of the Resistance, all of that. One of my favorite things is sitting down and watching the Indiana Jones stunt show. Actually, one of so 2 years ago now, about Ray Eady, who was he's a stunt coordinator. He spoke on the podcast and in the class, and he played Indiana Jones in that stunt show. And one of the highlights for me is when I asked him what his favorite character he ever played was as a stunt performer, and he said Indiana Jones. I'm like, well, yeah, that would. No, I would. I wouldn't like. Yeah, that's one for me. I don't want him to get rid of it, and honestly, like I don't even want him to update it to like. I don't want to see anything from. It would be kind of cool to see stuff from maybe Temple of Doom or Last Crusade or the new movie, like. But I guess so. Here's what they could do. They need to keep the boulder scene.
Oh, like, absolutely.
That boulder scene. I don't think when people think about Indiana Jones, that's like the first thing you think about is the boulder scene. So I think that needs to stay. Then maybe they could do something with the other two scenes. Maybe mix in, something from some of the other movies or anything. That would be a dream for me. And I know like Animal Kingdom, Dinosaur and Indiana Jones use the same ride track layout, that trackless system. And there were rumors that maybe Dino Land would become that, although now Encanto and Zootopia was kind of
Zootopia and Moana.
Sorry, yeah. Was
Encanto's going to Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Again, and really quickly, I'll touch base on this. That stuff is at least 10 years away, and it's going to get changed a million times.
Yeah. Which brings up a question, and we can touch on it at the end about the parks, and something I'm going to ask people on Monday also. So if I forget, remind me. Say, Cody, you have a question about the parks and the future of the parks, so I don't forget it because I want to get your perspective on it. So other reactions from D23 with like some of the Star Wars projects or the Marvel projects that you saw in that panel?
The Star Wars stuff, I wish I could have seen more on Ahsoka. Dave and John came out to talk about it. We didn't see any footage on it. We saw like a couple of like teaser pictures and everything, which was kind of a shock because at Celebration, they showed maybe like 30 seconds of like footage because they had just started filming too. So like that was all like rough cuts and everything. So that's why I was shocked. And then going into D23, I said, oh, we're going to get more footage because now they've been filming for the last 4 months and we didn't even see a thing.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I see the hype around Ahsoka. I see it around Indiana Jones. I see it around Andor as well, especially now that Andor is premiered on Disney Plus. But there are, and Willow as well, too. There was a good amount of hype for that amongst the audience. But then there's other projects that they were talking about that just, it feels like it's kind of sliding back a little bit. And we talked about it before we started. Skeleton Crew. Nobody really knows what exactly this is. And we didn't even learn any more after D23.
Yeah.
The two directors came out and they said, yeah, this is something we're doing. Oh, Jude Law is in it. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why did we even talk about this if you don't have anything to really talk about with it?
Yeah.
And I think it just goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's they're dipping their toe into the water to see what people think. And if they see any hesitation, they pull right back.
Okay.
We were talking about it earlier. I think this all began with Lucasfilm and Disney when Last Jedi came out. Because when Last Jedi came out, it diverted the fandom into like a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
There are the people that love Last Jedi and the people that hate Last Jedi. Okay. We're basically the same people. I love Last Jedi. You hate it.
I didn't hate it. I did almost fall asleep in it.
That's kind of hating it. But I think that's what they're so worried about, is
Yeah.
they're worried about producing and making something that just doesn't work, and then they're so worried about it. The other thing that got crazy attention, because it has gotten crazy attention, is the season 3 of Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We got to see a full trailer for that, which was great, because I think that's supposed to be coming out early next year.
Mm-hmm.
I can check my notes on that. Yeah, 2023. It doesn't even say earlier. So, but I feel like Mandalorian was another toe in the water,
Mm-hmm.
that they said, okay, we don't know if this is going to work. We're going to try it. And then it just blew up into this amazing thing that, you can't walk 5 steps without
Yeah.
someone knowing about Grogu. So I think that's what Lucasfilm's, mission is right now, is just they want to do more things, but they just want to just kind of put their toe in really quick, just to see if people like it. And if they do, then they keep going and let it explode into the amazing thing that it is. But if there's even any hesitation, they pull right back immediately and say, nope, we're done.
Yeah. And so do you think that hesitation, do you think that changes that? Does that change at all with Disney Plus now? That, because I think about, like, I think of it in comparison to Marvel, where Marvel takes big swings sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes they take some pretty big swings. And sometimes it does great, like Thor Ragnarok. Sometimes it doesn't do as well, like with the reaction to Eternals. I loved Eternals, but
I thought it was very good too. Yeah.
that was a big swing that a lot of people, for various reasons, didn't like as much. But we are now in, and I mean, this is a whole other conversation of, will we ever actually get to the point where it is saturated? And, like I've joked with my kids about, you're going to have to watch 58 movies and 75 Disney Plus shows to know what's going on. But, like,
I mean,
they
it
have
basically
so
kind
much,
of already is too.
yeah, they have so much content. Well, we actually, this last week, we did our best or favorite MCU project in the class. We had like a vote. There's 37 projects between, like, the movies and the Disney Plus shows and the MCU. So yeah, we are basically there. But
I literally thought about it when I was actually at the expo and I was watching all these Marvel projects. I'm like, maybe I want to, like, go back and start from the beginning again, just to kind of get everything in. And I'm like, good Lord, there's a lot of content I need to watch now. It used to, when Endgame ended, it was just like, oh, okay, just watch these movies. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Now it's watch all these movies, watch this couple of episodes of WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, and oh my Lord,
Yeah.
there's you literally have to devote about 6 months to watching all of Marvel right now.
Yeah, you have to keep up with it as it comes out, unless you have a lot of time to devote with it at other time. And I think, that might be something they have to deal with in the future.
Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll get COVID again and I can watch it during COVID.
When during the lockdown, when things weren't being released, like, I went back again and watched everything again. And now it's like and I love it. Like, it's great being a fan, but once one series ends, and another 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, if it's like a kind of a slow period, you're gonna have another show or a movie come out.
Right.
But like my point with that is, Marvel has so many projects that if one, quote unquote, misses, you're on to the next one. Do you think that is, and so they don't maybe have to be as careful? Like, you're describing how Lucasfilm is being very careful. Do you think that changes with Disney Plus, and now more and more projects can come out? Are they going to be more open to taking chances? Or do you think it's still, because, like, when you were dealing with 3 movies, then 6 movies, then 9 movies. Those are very like, you know what the fandom is. You can't mess those up.
Right.
If you mess those up, then that's a really bad thing to the fandom.
Yeah.
Now with, we're on our 4th, actually 5th, if you count Vision's 6th show, I guess 7th show if you count the last season of Rebel. Was it? No, it wasn't Rebels. The Clone Wars, they did the final season on Disney Plus. Now we're building up this library where, like, as a fan, if you see something and it's not as great as you want it to be, well, you can go on to the next thing. So do you think that's going to allow them to be take more chances?
I mean, and you were basically saying it. Marvel has been basically doing this whole time, but Marvel is succeeding every time.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about, like what's Lucasfilm had to do with Last Jedi. Marvel is pumping this content out every week, literally. We're getting a new episode of She-Hulk every week right now. Then, God, what do we go into next? Like,
next is going to be Black Panther, and then after that,
and
then early 2023. I think there might be 5 Disney Plus.
We have
shows
the second season of Loki.
Yeah.
I feel like there's another Marvel series that's coming out before the end of the year. But my point is, they're pumping this content out, and they keep getting it right every single time. That's why everyone asks nowadays, who do you see as the new Walt Disney? Who do you see as the new creative genius? And right now, that's Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
He is a true creative genius, because this man is literally producing hit after hit after hit after hit. And it doesn't show any sign of slowing down.
Yeah.
And now he's going to do it with the parks, because now we're going to have the new Avengers ride for California Adventure.
Yeah.
That I'm looking at this thing, I'm like, oh my God, you're literally going to bring me into an Avengers movie.
Yeah. That's I can't first of all, I haven't been to Avengers Campus. I can't wait to go there for the first time. And then I
will say this, it's a amazing land, but it's missing something. And when we get this new ride, that's what it's missing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's trying to be anchored right now by Web Slingers. And don't get me wrong, Web Slingers is a very fun ride, but it's not an e-ticket ride. It's not that big popular ride that, will draw the crowds in.
I mean, I remember when it first opened, because, the e-ticket attraction when it first opened was going to be like flying on a Quinjet adventure and stuff like that. And that got scrapped, obviously, now with the King Thanos thing. But I remember before it opened, even people describing, so in Avengers Campus, Web Slingers is going to be sort of like Smugglers Run, which Smugglers Run is an amazing attraction. I love it. And then the new e-ticket attraction is going to be like Rise of the Resistance. Wait till the e-ticket attraction opens, and then it's just going to be on a whole other level.
Right.
So then getting into the parks, how do you think we talked about 6 months ago? How do you think Star Wars is doing in the parks right now?
I think it's doing fantastic. I think the manipulation of Galaxy's Edge as a whole is still doing very, very well. The public seems to love it, as well as the diehard Star Wars fans. Since we last talked, now we have the new Magic Band Plus game in the land, the Batu Bounty Hunters Guild.
Have you done it?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I think it's such a fun game. Now, do I want to play it all the time when it's 95 degrees outside and 100% humidity? Hell no. So I think it's going to be an even more fun game come December when it's about 50 degrees out. So, but it's a very fun game. I personally think we've hit a point where we almost have a little too much Star Wars with the parks. Because, Florida here, Hollywood Studios, 50% of the park is basically Star Wars
Yeah.
central.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got Galaxy's Edge, we've got Star Tours, half the shops are basically taken over by everything Star Wars. You don't really have that in Disneyland.
Okay.
Yes, they have Galaxy's Edge. Yes, they have Star Tours, but it doesn't seem like Star Wars everywhere you go because you have the rest of the Magic Kingdom out there. And I think we could have done the same thing if we had put Galaxy's Edge in the Magic Kingdom here. But instead we took the park that was struggling a lot, which, don't get me wrong, that was the best business idea that they could have done.
Yeah.
But I've always said, I think the problem that we have with Hollywood Studios as a whole is that it's too tiny of a park and they're trying to turn it into a Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
But I think we've kind of tapped out right now. Would I love to see more Star Wars in the park? Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, and Launch Bay too.
Yeah.
We've still got Launch Bay over at Hollywood Studios. So, we do really have a bigger, stronger Star Wars presence than any other park. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, if you want to just do, they really should have just done a whole Star Wars themed park. You could have gone to different planets and everything, stuff like that. I think that would have been even more beneficial to them in the long run, especially if this is something that you're going to rely heavily on for your company for the next few decades by the sound of it. Unless Bob Chapek wants to go in and acquire something else to help balance everything out. So do I think they're going to put more in? Absolutely. But I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
I think it's too early. Let this all settle in first. There's still more stuff that you can do with the existing Star Wars product that you have in the parks. Perfect example is Smugglers Run. Smugglers Run was always meant to have different missions to it, but it's still locked on the one mission of Corellia.
Okay.
And we're 3 years into this, over 3 years into Smugglers Run now, and we still only have the one mission. I think one day we will see other missions on there. They teased it with concept art way back in the day, when they were first talking Galaxy's Edge. So I think we'll see that before we would see another Star Wars themed attraction.
Yeah. Okay. And when you were talking about that, it made me think, between Galaxy's Edge, Star Tours, which is, a mix of Tatooine and Endor, and then Launch Bay, is there, within the park, is there some connected story between those three attractions right now?
Not really.
Okay. Like that's what
Because
I thought.
what
Like
you have,
Batu is a standalone, but then everything's standalone right now, right?
What we try and get across to the guests is that when you step through the tunnel and everything to take you into Galaxy's Edge, you are now in a living, breathing environment. Okay.
Yeah.
You are on planet. Okay. You are in this storyline between episodes 8 and 9. Okay. Whereas everything outside of that tunnel, Star Wars related, is a celebration of Star Wars.
Okay.
We remember when Star Tours, this version of Star Tours, first opened, and it was set between episodes 3 and 4. But it still didn't really have that much of a immersiveness to it, because you knew you weren't going off there, because you knew you got into your simulator and you could look around in this giant black room.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh hell, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. But it's virtual reality.
Yeah.
And that's what I try and get across, is that's a celebration of Star Wars, because literally now you can go on Star Tours and you could be getting the old stuff from when it first opened. You could be getting the new stuff. You could be getting a whole bunch of mixture things. However, they're still trying to keep it as immersive as I think they can, because, you've done Star Tours before. When we begin the mission, begin the ride, you either get Darth Vader and the classic stormtroopers, or you get Kylo Ren
Yeah.
in the First Order Stormtroopers. You're not going to see Kylo Ren and then go to Tatooine.
Yeah.
No, you're going to see Kylo Ren and then go do all the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see Darth Vader and then go to Crate. Okay. No, you're going to see Darth Vader and then go to Tatooine.
Yeah. And the last time we talked, and you mentioned it now also, but we talked about Galaxy's Edge being in the Star Wars timeline, set in the Star Wars timeline, and how that's different from like Avengers Campus, which kind of exists like in the multiverse, if you will. So Avengers Campus, you could have a bunch of, you could have characters that
you can have both
are
Captain
dead.
Americas just standing right there, right next to each other.
Galaxy's Edge, I think I've read things like maybe at Disneyland, are they starting to have Mandalorian and Grogu?
They're going to have the Mandalorian and Grogu by the end of the year, but they already have Boba Fett and Fennec Shand.
So how are they kind of balancing that? Is that like are they retconning it? What are they doing with that?
I think I personally believe that what Disney has realized is that maybe going fully immersive into this and having that locked story mode is not really the greatest thing to have. Because they're seeing people people come up to us all the time in Galaxy's Edge. Where's Darth Vader? And I'm like, guys, he's dead.
Yeah.
Because he is in our storyline. So what I think they tried to do with Disneyland was say, okay, let's try and dip our toe into the water again.
Yeah. Let's
see how this really works. If we can put Boba Fett in here and still kind of have it locked in. I'm trying to remember what exactly they said about him, but I think they said like along the lines of, you may see characters walking around Batuu that were there at some point in the history timeline of Star Wars, and now you're seeing them as you walk through your day in Batuu.
Okay.
And it's just like a paradox kind of thing in my mind that I'm going through with all of that.
So it's like it's almost like you're in the Twilight Zone. Like you go to Batuu, and then all of a sudden, once the sort of the retcon, I guess, is you go to Batuu and like everything that has ever happened, magically people have ended up on Batuu.
Right.
At least all the popular characters. So you could see that, like I imagine Andor will be walking around pretty soon.
Who knows, probably soon. And I mean, that's what they're doing with Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
Is they're going to have them but they're also having them walk around just in the outskirts of the outpost.
Okay.
Kind of just in that marketplace area, by my understanding.
Okay.
Because they don't want Boba Fett walking to the Resistance camp and seeing all the activity over there. They don't want Boba Fett getting closer to the Millennium Falcon, because then, story-wise, that could be triggering to, where's Han Solo or something like that. Or you could have Boba Fett walking over to the First Order ship and seeing Kylo Ren. And then all this random stuff just ensues of, timeline and everything. Now, does the average Joe Schmo really understand that? No. But to the diehards like us, we understand that. It's like, yeah, I can see what they're trying to do there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to ask. Like, what do you think? What percentage of the people who go to Galaxy's Edge on a regular basis, or I should say, like on a regular day, what percentage of those people in there do you think really would know that Boba Fett doesn't belong there? I mean, are you thinking it's 5%, 6%,
maybe even less than that?
I mean, yeah, and so I wonder, but it is so interesting for like one thing that I think is so great about the Disney parks is that they exist for consumption on so many different levels that like if you just are going for the first time, you can have fun. If you're there for the 10th time, you have fun with your family, whatever. But also, if you want to get into it, the more you want to get into it, the more you can recognize details at every park. And so I wonder if in the future they will retcon this, or they will open it up to, there's not a multiverse in Star Wars, but if they will open it
Not
up
that we
to,
know of yet.
Yeah.
They may try something. Who knows?
Maybe that is the long rumored Kevin Feige Star Wars project, is he is creating a way to be able to bring everybody together. Because, you know, I do remember when it first opened, people talking about like how nice it would be to see all of the characters that we grew up with, all of the characters that everyone grew up with, instead, like, because, you know, a lot of people who go into Star Wars Galaxy's Edge now, they might not even know who Kylo Ren is, or
Right.
Kylo Ren will never have the like place of like fear for me that Darth Vader will. Like,
Right.
I see Darth Vader every time I see Darth Vader. I mean, I don't suspend reality and allow myself to play enough that like I get like scared, like as a visitor to a theme park. But every time I see him, it reminds me of how scary he was. And by the way, how, and we'll get to this in just a little bit, how just amazing and scary and terrifying he was in Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, that was like, I think since the original trilogy, a lot of what's been done with Darth Vader is, and we talked about like the Lego movies before this, but I think a lot of what has been done is he's kind of been betrayed like as this like sort of funny character. And like, you know, he makes mistakes here and there, but like he has force power and stuff like that. And to get back and to see like just the sheer terror that he can like elicit from that show. I've heard a lot of people said that's the Darth Vader they grew up with, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, you know, that's interesting to see what they're gonna do and how they're gonna fit everything in, because with Imagineering and Disney, it is so important to tell that story. And I think a lot of people, the super fans, really appreciate that. So they don't want to go away from that aspect, you know.
Like, I think there are the fans that want a fully immersive environment like us. You know, we're fine with that. But there's also like a little side of us, but there, you know, this is also made up by a good amount of the population that would just love, you know, I'll call it the Star Wars campus. You know, if it was an Avengers campus with Star Wars, where you could just walk around and you could see Darth Vader and Kylo Ren just walking together.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, you do have that aspect a little bit outside of Hollywood studios, outside of Galaxy's Edge and Hollywood studios, with Star Tours and Launch Bay and stuff like that. But we almost want that full themed land, though. You know, we want that land aspect and just see the characters roaming around. I think one thing that would benefit them very well would be to bring back the stage shows that they used to have in front of the Chinese theater. You know, where it was basically the Star Wars fashion show, but you could see all the characters right there.
Yeah. And we never did it, but I liked the Jedi training also. The Jedi training.
Yeah,
like,
I don't think
that was
that's
such
ever coming back.
That was, I've talked to a lot of people.
Spoken from a true person that worked there at Jedi.
Not coming back.
It doesn't come back.
Do you think we're ever going to see a Galaxy's Edge Disney Plus show?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, at some point. You know, I mean, I was talking about it with Hyperspace Lounge on the Wish. We went to Batuu.
Yeah.
We were right over Batuu. So I'm like, you know, I mean, we have the books that take you into a little bit deeper story of Batuu.
Yeah.
So I fully expect one of these days we're going to have a Disney Plus show, and it's all going to be centered around Batuu, and they'll probably film it in Batuu.
And then, you know, that's what I like. If they did that, how cool would it be that, I mean, you know, Hollywood Studios, starting as MGM Studios, was like, that would pay, if they filmed a scene there, that would pay homage to what Hollywood Studios
it's probably going to be
was.
Disneyland, though. In the long run, that would get it.
That's true.
They don't like us that much. I'm kidding.
So then in the parks, what would you like to see? What character would you like to see added to Galaxy's Edge that maybe like you have seen in other parks or you have seen at Hollywood studios, other places, but or
Truthfully,
it could
right
be
now,
someone that you have never seen other than in projects.
give me Mandalorian and Grogu.
Okay.
You're already bringing them to Disneyland. They would be a huge hit here.
Yeah.
And literally, you already see it over the internet and amongst uh, guests and everything saying, "Why does Disneyland get in and we don't?"
Yeah.
So it just, I mean, I saw them at D23 because they brought them out for that parks presentation, and it looks really, really, really good.
Is it a puppet like Figment was with the
Yes.
Dreamfinder? Okay.
Yeah. Because
So that
what I could tell was that when he moved his cape, and then Grogu's just sitting there,
okay.
like in his pocket or whatever, I can tell he's got like his hand or something like that in there, and he's controlling him.
Yeah.
So because and it's very subtle, it's just subtle movements that only Grogu would make.
Yeah. So is
Um,
it like does the Mandalorian have a fake arm also? Or like
Possibly, yeah.
can you see
I
both
couldn't
of
tell that
his
because I was
hands?
far away.
Okay.
I'm sure when he actually gets out there, we'll be able to see him
Yeah.
fully. Um, but I feel like, and this is a problem that we have between us and Disneyland. Disneyland, he could be walking around the streets and everything, and it'd be fine. Here, you would literally have to set up a meet and greet with
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
You can't, roaming characters don't work here. And it's because of the cultural reception with the guests.
Okay.
Okay. The guests here, and it's not anything towards the guests or anything, but they don't understand how a roaming character works. And, when I worked at Launch Bay, you would have these people come up to me saying, "Why can't I take a picture with the stormtroopers?" Because they're roaming around. They wander around. They don't stop and take photos or anything like that. Oh, well, I don't understand that. These people don't understand the concept of these characters roam around. I'm pretty sure they probably still get it today in Galaxy's Edge when the characters roam around and everything. I'm surprised that they can even roam around because they have these people just follow them like crazy, and they're trying to push ahead to get a photo with them for, the little boy and everything. Like, hey, go take a picture with them. No, they're roaming around. This is a real environment.
Yeah.
And that's why if they brought Mandalorian and Grogu, it would never work.
Yeah.
I think you would literally have to take over where Olaf and Mickey and Minnie meet and greet right now, retrofit that meet and greet area to be the new Mandalorian and Grogu meet and greet. Okay. And you'd have to, you could easily charge $20 as a lightning lane to go meet him, and it would probably work.
When did you at D23 did you see the new Hulk character that's going to be in, or actually made his debut in Avengers Campus yesterday?
Yeah, he came out during the presentation.
Was it very mechanical? How I mean, I think they're going to keep advancing with it. I saw some people say it looked amazing. Some people said, like, obviously,
no, it looks fantastic in my opinion. They previewed this technology for us at Destination D back at the Contemporary last year. And all they teased it with was like, this guy walks out like kind of on stilts and everything, and has these big like puppet arms, that are like, 5 times the size of my hand and arm right here. And he's controlling their movements, kind of almost like puppetry a little bit.
Yeah.
And when they premiered that for us, I was like, okay, what are you doing with this? What? And my mind went to Thanos, my mind went to the Hulk. I was like, okay, so it's something that we won't see here in Florida because of the contract with Marvel. But then as soon as they brought him out for the parks presentation, I could easily tell that was it, because it's this exact same guy. You can see he's walking out on stilts and everything. Because if you see those videos of him in California Adventure, he just steps out really quick and then he kind of walks back, because he can't walk around like
you
that
can't walk
throughout the
around
whole
people.
land.
Yeah. With that technology, I would love to see Mandalorian and Grogu in Galaxy's Edge. But a character I would love to see that would require this technology and maybe even plus it. I would love if Jabba the Hutt were in Galaxy's Edge in some way. And it made me think of it when you said like Boba Fett couldn't walk over to the Millennium Falcon, and it made me think of Jabba the Hutt. Like, how could you do that? Like, is he in my mind, like endless resources, I would love to see him, like, I don't know what you call it, crawling along or inching along, however he walks, however he moves, around,
wherever you could do it too,
around that around Smugglers Run. I would love to see that. I'm thinking that it would probably need to be something more stationary.
Oh, it absolutely.
You bring him
it
out
would
on
have to
his
be
stage
some
or
form of a
something.
puppet, or whatever.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite meet and greets that I've ever done was when it was in Walt Disney Presents One Man's Dream. They had Star-Lord and Groot.
Yeah.
And it was Baby Groot. I didn't care at all about Star-Lord. I cared about the little tiny puppet of Groot that they were basically controlling right there in front of me. I'm like, they need to do more with puppets.
Yeah.
In my opinion, whether that's in an actual meet and greet or like what they showed us at the Parks Pavilion at D23 with these animal puppets that they're going to have in the Zootopia land in Shanghai.
Okay.
Where they're going to pop out of these windows and they're going to be conversing with you. I'm assuming in Mandarin in Shanghai. But it got me thinking, if we actually get this Zootopia themed land for Animal Kingdom one day, we're going to get something like that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of puppetry. I love the Muppets. Okay. I think puppets are an amazing way to go. And if we could keep manipulating that in the parks, I've always said puppetry is a million times better than CGI in movies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Last Jedi, when we see Yoda appearing, I'm like, oh crap, this is the CGI, isn't it? And then as soon as he starts moving, you can immediately tell, just like that, it's a puppet.
Yeah.
And I started sobbing in theaters because it was like, oh my God, they went back and did puppetry again.
Yeah.
Puppetry is practical, and practical rules out every time, because anything practical is amazing. That's another reason why I love Star Wars, is because everything that we watch with Star Wars is practical 90-ish% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that they're actually interacting with is more than likely practical.
Yeah. And on that, like you just mentioned the Muppets. Like, you think we're going to get more Muppets in the park anytime? I mean, they had their show in Magic Kingdom that lasted 2 or 3 years, I think. But that's such a popular, it's such a popular franchise, and it doesn't seem like we have a lot of that in any of the parks. I wonder,
I sure hope we get more of Muppets.
I mean,
I sure hope we do.
If maybe they can, I don't know, maybe they can turn Muppet Vision 3D. They can update it and we can get some there. Or,
all right, I'm signing off right now. No. Never touch Muppet Vision, because that was Jim Henson's last project.
That's true. That's true.
I will run that into my grave. Never touch that, because that was his last project ever. Yeah. Just like how you should never touch Pirates in Haunted Mansion, because that was Walt's last project.
Well, but with Haunted Mansion, they do the overlay.
Right. And that's okay.
What if they did an overlay in Magic Kingdom based on the Muppets Haunted Mansion? This, what came out this last year.
I will rope drop that on its opening day.
And you will never be able to get me away from that. My wife will be the same way because we both love the Muppets that much, especially Muppets Haunted Mansion.
That show was so great. It's just such a fun show. I hope they do more of those. We talked about like how if you're looking at like start making Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Willow more like engaging with people, going the Lego route. I want to see them do more of the Muppet stuff too. Because
there's so much potential that they could be doing with the Muppets and they don't.
I mean,
I wonder if that's just because of what Brian Henson says or something like that. But there is so much potential that they're not tapping into.
Yeah.
And I really wish I could understand why. Because they tried with that Muppets Now thing on Disney Plus, and we all thought that was going to be great, and then we watched and we're like,
Yeah, but you know, if every year they could come out, just start with the attractions and like adapt every other year or so, adapt some attraction to where there's now a Muppet special on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
you know, go with I don't know, they did it with Treasure Island. It's not Pirates of the Caribbean, but you know, we
were watching that religiously on the cruise because we both love Treasure Island.
So the next thing, let's see, the next thing I was going to talk about is, and we have two more main topics, and then I have a few quick things. Do you think, not talking about the parks, with entertainment, theater entertainment, Disney Plus, it seems right now Lucasfilm's strategy with Star Wars is do a lot of Disney Plus shows and stick with Disney Plus, and then maybe every once in a while put out a movie. Like, you know, there's no movies announced for the foreseeable future. All of them that had been announced have kind of been taken off the schedule. Do you think that is the best strategy for them going forward for the foreseeable future?
I personally think right now, with Disney Plus being still this newbie, still this thing that we want all the exposure possible for the streaming platform, it is the absolute best thing to be doing right now.
Okay.
Because what they're doing right now with basically having some form of new content every single week to keep you engaged with it, and more importantly, keep you subscribed. I think it's something that Netflix fails miserably on. Because how many times, you know, the biggest thing that I watch with Netflix, Stranger Things. Okay. How many times do I watch Stranger Things? I'll sign up for a month pass and then I'll cancel before I have to subscribe again.
Yeah.
Not this last season, because the last season they split it up, which I think that was a smart thing to do. Releasing them staggered every week like that, that's a very smart thing to do. It keeps people watching. And more importantly, it keeps them subscribed.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't get 250 million subscribers or whatever it is now by not thinking like that.
Yeah.
And that number is only going to increase now, starting in December when they come out with the ad-supported version of Disney Plus, because these people will go out and they'll buy that because they'll save a little bit of money. Yeah, they're going to have to watch ads. You can bet yourself that I'm not going to be buying that.
Yeah,
I refuse to watch ads.
You're going with the more expensive option.
Absolutely,
because ad tier is going to be the $8.99, and then
correct, and then it goes up
premium
to like
$11.99.
11,
yeah.
I'm going to end up doing, because I bought the 3-year Disney Plus subscription at the Expo in 2019, and I've only paid something like $150 for it. So that was a steal. And I think that was really just a marketing attempt, because they just wanted to make sure that anyone who wanted to get it would get it.
Yeah.
And then this way just spread the word.
Yeah.
Okay. And it worked. It worked very, very well. But now my subscription basically ends, I think, in November.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what could I switch over to So I said, let me switch over to the Disney Plus bundle. I'm already paying $15 a month right now for Hulu with no ads.
Yeah.
Okay. The Hulu with no ads, Disney Plus with no ads, and now ESPN Plus, it's only $20 a month.
Yeah.
That's still a steal in my book.
Yeah.
That's a great deal.
Yeah, I had done the D23 thing in 2019, and I was so hoping against hope that something would come out at D23 that, hey, you get an annual discount on this. And I think the annual discount is on the bundle. And I think, although, as soon as they get everything cleared up with Hulu, I think as soon as they get everything cleared up regarding Hulu with Comcast, I think everything's going to be on Disney Plus.
Once
Chapek
Disney
has even
gets the
said that.
full ownership of Hulu, then we'll see some better deals, if anything, out there. And
Yeah.
but $20 a month for all three of those, sign me up.
Yeah,
that's a great deal.
I think we actually we spent a lot of time in my classes talking, and my marketing classes talking about this as well. This last week we were just talking about the release schedule with Netflix compared to other streaming services, and Netflix being the original disruptor, because you could binge everything. But now they're in a situation where all these other streaming services, Disney Plus and others, are releasing on a weekly schedule. So how does Netflix get their viewers used to having something on a weekly schedule,
right?
To where they keep their subscriptions going from month to month? The other thing with the last thing is it deals with the parks in general, or I should say it deals with Walt Disney World in general. And this was there were several complaints about this after D23 online, about saying, like, it was kind of a blue sky meeting. There were a lot of these blue sky ideas, and there were some things thrown out about what was going to happen in the other parks, but with Walt Disney World, a lot of it was blue sky. Doesn't Epic Universe open in 2025? Yeah. So how worried are you as a Disney fan that what's Epic Universe opens, how is Disney going to react to that? Because we have these announcements of like, hey, maybe we're going to put in a villain's land in Magic Kingdom. Well, I've heard a lot of people say like a villain's park would be amazing. So like Universal opening up a new park that's going to pull people away, like
it absolutely will.
Yeah,
absolutely will.
And if a major announcement is not made before then, I really do think it could be 5 years or maybe 5 to 10 years before Disney really recovers and gets back to the level of getting people to choose them over this new park.
Let me ask you this. What do you think Disney's answer to Wizarding World of Harry Potter was?
Well, and that's what they have going for them, because then that was, let's open Pandora, let's go on top of that and open Toy Story Land, let's go on top of that.
But do you think those two
Edge.
Really competed that much with Harry Potter though?
Well, so I haven't been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and I'm a casual fan of Harry Potter. I'm not a super fan of Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like the equivalent would be like, with the age of my kids, I loved Toy Story Land when it opened, or I love going to Toy Story Land. I really liked that when it opened, and I liked Galaxy's Edge. Pandora is really cool. The Flight of Passage is an amazing ride. I'm not a huge Avatar fan.
Right.
So, I think what were you going to say about the addition of their reactions?
Because, like, in my opinion, Pandora and Toy Story Land were not the answers.
Okay.
It was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge was the answer to Harry Potter. And look at how long that took. That took 9 years. 9 years since Harry Potter had already opened.
Mm-hmm.
And what was Disney doing in the meantime? Disney was making the My Magic Plus, and basically, this is me saying it not as a cast member, but screwing over your guests, because they were making it even more difficult to plan your vacation. And they still even do this to this day, where it's like, oh, you want to do this? Well, you got to do this and you got to do that. Well, oh, you want to do the virtual queue? Then you have to be on there right at 7:00. You have to refresh the page. Universal, yeah, just pay a little extra money and get Express Pass. That's all you need to worry about. Oh, you want a nice hotel too? They'll give you Express. Yeah, those are our deluxe resorts. Just, oh, how much is that? Oh, it's half the price of what you would pay with Grand Floridian. Pardon?
Yeah.
So to me, like you were saying earlier, does this worry me as a Disney fan? Not really, because it's also the theme park fan in me, because the competition between these two only just means good things to me as the guest. Okay. It's new things for me to do every single time I go, because I can do this, I can do that. I always said, ever since I moved down here almost 10 years ago now, every summer we get something new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. Who's going to take my attention this summer?
Yeah.
2014 summer, who took my attention? Diagon Alley, Universal. Okay. Magic Kingdom was bringing me in a little bit with the Mine Train, but I mean, that was, it's a fun coaster. Okay. Nothing else really exciting about it. But then come 2017, Pandora.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you bet your butt I was over at Animal Kingdom a lot, enjoying that. Because look at 2017. Disney opened Pandora. Universal opened Volcano Bay.
Yeah.
Okay. They opened them literally almost at the same time. Do I think these blue sky things were Disney's answer to Epic Universe? A little bit, but until you can solidify it more and say, this is exactly what we're doing, this is what it's going to look like, then I'll make that determination.
Yeah.
I personally think if you're really just going to say, we're going to put these little mini lands back there behind Big Thunder of Coco, Encanto, the villains, that's a horrible thing to do. You already have the Magic Kingdom with Tomorrowland, Frontierland, Fantasyland, Adventureland. You have these themed lands, and you can't just branch off of that right next to Frontierland, because people will just get that confused and think, wait, so what's so frontier about Encanto or the villains or anything like that? And it doesn't flow right. I think the smart thing for them to do would be taking a page out of Tokyo Disney Sea with Fantasy Springs. Tokyo Disney Sea has different ports. And when you go into the ports, you have all these different intellectual properties that you step into. That's what they need to do with this addition land now to Magic Kingdom. By the way, do I also think Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island are going away? Absolutely. I think they are going to be going way out of this, because you look at the area that they're working with back there. It would be if they were doing it right now based on their land and without getting rid of Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer Island, it would be a one-way in and a one-way out right there next to Big Thunder.
Yeah.
Can you say bottleneck?
I think I was listening to a podcast this last week where they were talking about Rivers of America. Well, they were talking about the retheming, how excited people are for the retheming of Tiana's Riverboat Adventure.
Same.
It
looks beautiful.
I think Rivers of America, because they were the hosts were talking about, well, what do they do with Rivers of America? Oh, well, I think that's rethemed to one of the riverboats in New Orleans. Because like in Disneyland, you have New Orleans Square where all of this can maybe fit in, except I know it's Splash Mountain is in Critter Country, and maybe like they were talking about, are they going to retheme the whole thing to New Orleans Square? But in Magic Kingdom in Orlando and Walt Disney World, I think because it's right there, you could use, your retheming Splash Mountain and the river is right there. The Rivers of America is right there. Tom Sawyer's right there. I think you could retheme all of that to Tiana if you wanted, or you could throw in some different things as well. I mean, especially with the riverboat, I think that's kind of the cleanest, the cleanest thing to do is, retheme it as a riverboat in New Orleans around in the 1920s or whenever they're setting that attraction.
But what they're doing with magic, with this idea, it doesn't flow right.
Yeah.
What you're saying is spot on. It's engulfing everything into that existing land that they already are working with. Magic Kingdom with these blue sky concepts is not really sounding right. Also touching base on the Zootopia and Moana stuff for Animal Kingdom. I think Zootopia could work for Animal Kingdom. I just have to see how they're going to do it. But Moana I don't know. Something doesn't sound right to me with Animal Kingdom for that, especially when we already have it coming to Epcot.
Yeah. Well, and with Moana, like Zootopia for me fits because of they're all cartoon characters, but they are animals. That's why I mentioned Encanto. I think Encanto fits because you could, especially with I can't remember the youngest cousin's name who can talk to animals, but you could have walkthroughs where you could talk to you could see animals from Encanto. I think Indiana Jones would work because of a lot of that stuff is kind of explorer, and that's the feel I get from Animal Kingdom as well. It's interesting with Moana there, unless they're going to add some aquatic, some marine life, maybe then it fits. And the fact then it is at Epcot, and it makes me wonder if strategically they're seeing that the Moana franchise, the fandom around Moana is so strong that first maybe they need to make more movies of it or more projects of it, but the fandom is so strong that it could attract people to both Epcot and to Animal Kingdom, because those two parks have something in common, being the largest parks of the four that can take up the most guests and accommodate the most guests. So I understand trying to put something in the two largest parks, and that's how maybe I see why Moana would be in two different parks, is maybe they see that this is such a popular franchise that it would bring to two parks. But I'm not sure, because thematically it is, unless they're going to have marine life, it seems a little iffy,
Now, again, these are all blue sky concepts.
Yeah.
Okay. I said it earlier. I think this stuff will change time and time again. But we probably won't see it for about 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Especially if they do the Zootopia stuff. Everything that I've read is that if they're going to duplicate something from Shanghai, so for example, Tron, okay, it has an exclusive right to be the only thing at Shanghai for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why originally Tron was supposed to open in 21. Zootopia is only opening in Shanghai next year.
Yeah.
So that means bare minimum, if that's going to be the exact same ride that they're going to put over in Animal Kingdom, which easy thing for them to do because it's just cloning an existing ride. Yeah. Don't expect to see this thing until about 2028.
Yeah. Well, so anything else you have on Lucasfilm, in the parks, in the movie theater, Disney Plus, anything else you think interesting to bring up?
No, I mean, I will say this, when I got home from the ship this morning, first thing I did was I watched the first 3 episodes of Andor, because they premiered while I was on the cruise. I like the direction that they're going with this. I think it's going to be interesting. I'm very excited that, we're only 3 episodes in and we have 21 more episodes to go. We're going to have another 9 episodes this season, and then we have another 12 episodes in the following season. I'm like, that's a lot of content, which that should be really good.
And I've read that and I've watched the first 3 episodes, and I'm trying to watch them again now. The well, not right now. That it's a grittier show.
Yes.
And I have a theory on that everybody knows, people who know Andor knows the character dies in Rogue One.
Right.
And so my theory is that unlike a character like Han Solo or someone else, or maybe Boba Fett or Mandalorian, who like people didn't know what was happening with them. Now, obviously with Han Solo, people know like from episode 7, but like these characters that you're going to keep around and keep evolving their story, maybe they go a little safer with those than they do like an Andor, who is dead in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
And so maybe they're willing to go a little grittier with him, show kind of a different side, and make him sort of that true anti-hero.
Right. Because it's the idea of he's already dead, canonically, later on, but let's talk about him earlier on.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I'll give it a shot.
And what were your impressions of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
The greatest piece of show, whatever you want to call it, that Disney Plus has made to this day.
See, I agree. I thought the Mandalorian was the torchbearer, and then watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it could be some of the sentimental value for me.
Yeah. Same.
But it is.
I mean, come on, I'm Darth Vader 92. Of course, I fell in love with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It was an amazing show. If they can do more shows like that, then great. If they have more shows like Book of Boba Fett, then dedicate some issues to Mandalorian possibly and Grogu.
Let me ask you, do you think there's going to be a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I don't know. I don't know what, because I'll say this because I didn't know the story they were going to tell I didn't know it was going to have a young Princess Leia. That was a surprise, and it turned out
that was a huge surprise.
Amazing. So they could have another amazing story to tell. But in my mind, I'm like, well, is the next story really like his relationship with Luke as younger? And then you get into like the kind of awkwardness about, well, Luke had knew who Ben was, but didn't really know him all that well.
Right.
So what story are they going to tell? Because if they could bring, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, yeah, I would watch more of that. It's just what story they're going to tell.
I want to see them bring back Liam Neeson more.
Yeah.
Because what if you had this, the way I see the finale episode, and spoilers if any of y'all haven't seen this yet, but hopefully you have by this point. When he sees Qui-Gon, he's surprised because he thought, oh, I was beginning to think you weren't ever going to show up. And then Qui-Gon says, I was always here, Obi-Wan. You just weren't ready to see.
Yeah.
So it's tapping into that idea of the Force ghosts. And I'm like, could we see more about this? Like, could we see a further establishment on how a Jedi sees a Force ghost? Because the way Obi-Wan looked at him was like, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
And you come to think of it like, wait, yeah, you never have seen a Force ghost before.
Yeah, that's the first time a Force ghost has really been shown in the timeline.
Yeah. So maybe we'll dive a little bit deeper into that, and if we get a season 2.
Yeah, that would be an interesting concept. It also reminded me of just a meme I had read online, or I don't know, someone's post online about the new Lando series that's going to be coming out in a few years, where they said it would be amazing if every episode started out with Billy D. Williams sitting around playing sabacc, bragging about his adventures, and everybody at the table, like, you're you're full of it, man. That's not how it happened. And then like it's a flashback to
Why
Donald
am I
Glover and like
picturing
the
like
actual.
you remember The Wonderful World of Disney when it was
Yeah.
on Sunday nights on ABC and Michael Eisner would come on? Hello, I'm Michael
Yeah.
Eisner. Why am I picturing Billy D. Williams just starting off every episode? Hello, I'm Lando Calrissian.
Let me tell you about a story I had. And then somebody comes on and they're like, no, that's not how this happened at all. Let's actually tell the real story. I think that would be an interesting concept. And, you know, like someone else I had talked to a long time ago said when Disney purchased Lucasfilm, at that time, Lucasfilm was working on, I can't remember the name of the animated series. I mean, it was finished and it was about to be released, and Disney like covered it up or didn't release it. But it was something like, it was kind of like Star Wars, but funny, like the funny side of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like where Darth Vader was they were trying to build the Death Star, but like, how could they build a Death Star without anybody noticing? They like kind of said it was like this mall, like this shopping center for everybody in the galaxy, and so everybody was accepting of it. And like I think more
You're
shows
remembering
like
the Family
that.
Guy one too.
Yeah.
And they're
I
like,
think
all right, which floor are we on? We're over here by the Macy's. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get over here by the J.C. Penney, though.
I think more shows like that for Star Wars would be pretty.
See, and I don't think
entertaining.
that's ever going to come personally, because let's think back to when we had Star Wars weekends. Remember Hyperspace Hoopla?
I never got to go, so I don't know. No,
I mean,
don't
did
know
you
what
ever
it is.
see anything like that? You know, with
No.
the characters dancing up to, you know, like Michael Jackson or something like that.
I saw a few
It's
of
something
like
that
the
we won't
Jedi.
see anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's that side of, you know, it's like how something like Robot Chicken Star Wars will
Mhm.
never actually see the light of day actually coming from Disney and Lucasfilm. I think they're trying to stay clear of all of that
Yeah.
now.
You think it is they're trying to keep it in the serious, very serious realm?
Oh, absolutely.
And is that something is that good or bad? Like, should they go kind of this fun, corny route?
I think
where
if you're trying to appeal to the diehard Star Wars fans, yes. If you're trying to appeal to families with kids, no.
Yeah, okay.
Because obviously no kid should be watching Andor right now. That's a little too much.
Yeah, and that's the thing with my boys have watched they've watched the 2 seasons of Mandalorian, which some of that I was kind of like questionable, like
Yeah, some of that's kind of like hesitant, but at the same time, some of it is good.
Yeah, and then they watched the 3 episodes of Book of Boba Fett that Mandalorian was in. We started the first episode of Book of Boba Fett and they didn't get through it. They were on to something else. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think, is a little mature for them now,
right?
Especially with how the season starts and what it's based around, Order 66 and stuff. I think that's and then Andor is completely out of the question for a few more years or a lot more years. I don't know. Okay, so the 3 quick questions that I have for you. You can explain them. You don't have to explain anything if you want. So far, this could be from movies, anything that's been put out. Favorite Star Wars project that you've seen? Movies, Disney Plus shows, anything.
Like that's upcoming?
No, that's out right now. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Favorite Disney project you have seen?
Galaxy's Edge.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think just because it's a sentimental thing to me now that I work there. But just because it really is this immersive themed land and it's something that's never been done before.
Yeah. What are you most looking forward to in Star Wars? Any movies, Disney Plus themed, anything?
I think right now I want to see where they go with Ahsoka.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's the big one.
Okay. And then last one. If you could add something to Disney Plus, what Star Wars project, what story would you like to see told on Disney Plus?
To be honest, there really isn't that much of an actual story. It's just time frame wise. Tell me more stories between episodes 3 and 4.
Okay.
Tell me more stories especially tell me more stories between episodes 6 and 7. Because especially between episodes 6 and 7, there's 30 years worth of material right there that could easily be talked about.
Yeah.
You know, give me more stories of Luke, you know, not necessarily around the time before he appears in The Mandalorian, but maybe after that, where he begins the Jedi temple and everything, and takes Kyle.
Yeah. Well, and last thing, because of that, do you think Star Wars as a franchise ever gets completely away from the Skywalker saga? Because everything we've seen so far happens in the Skywalker saga to some extent. Do you think we ever get something?
And they kind of like connect it a little bit sometimes too.
I mean, they're kind of like doing it's like the MCUification of Star Wars in a way. Do you think we ever get something that is completely removed from it? And do you think it would be successful, or is it like we talked about before we started recording, like the Star Wars saga is like people sitting in the restaurant and Lucasfilm is trying to slowly get away from it, but they're standing outside the window of the restaurant, like face against the window, peeking in.
Right. I personally, I mean, definitely we know it for a fact. I think it is going to happen because they're still claiming that they're going to go ahead with Rian Johnson's trilogy and Taika Waititi's film that he's going to do. They're all falling outside of the envelope of the Skywalker saga.
Okay.
Do I think it's going to be successful? As long as it's done right, it can be. It has to feel like Star Wars. And that's the thing. That's the recipe to anything good Star Wars. It has to feel like Star Wars. And that's what we got with Mandalorian. It felt like Star Wars and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So as long as they do that, there's no telling what they could do.
Okay.
There's, you were already seeing with the High Republic with those books. Everyone's loving those. Now we could dive deeper and do some Disney Plus series or do an actual movie, whatever they want to do.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, thanks for doing this. For people who want to keep up with what you're doing, what's the best way to do that?
Best way really is just follow me on Twitter at Darth Vader 92.
Okay.
As long as we have a good couple of mutual friends in common that I at least know of, feel free to friend me on Facebook, just Matt Dobrovolsky.
Okay.
I'll be on there too.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for doing this. This is
thanks for having me.
And this is your third time doing this. And I have started I'll send you a picture sometime. I'm not sure you can count it as an NFT, but I do have a virtual 5-time jacket in honor of like Saturday Night Live and everything.
Oh boy.
It is
that's going to be worth a couple $1,000s, right? Because it's an NFT, right?
That would, and I expect when people get that it is the picture is blown up and it is placed behind them prominently on their walls. It's extremely
space right there. I think that
it's extremely high quality. Don't worry, it's very, very high quality. So thanks a lot, Matt. Have a great day.
Thanks, Cody.
Bye.